acknowledgement changes so much about our inner experience, to put a word to it. Acknowledgement is really powerful, even if it is a label sometimes, a label for an emotion. You come to retreat for whatever you come to retreat for, but you bring a lot with you. You bring various aspects of identity with you. You bring karmic residue with you. You bring a lot with you. And so being open to acknowledgement is really valuable, because you have the opportunity to acknowledge what you didn't even know was there. The acknowledgement, as realization deepens, the acknowledgement and the integration and healing, I guess, that goes along with that, will go beyond yourself. It will go beyond your own body, beyond your own life. It has profound effects, acknowledgement. And learning acknowledgement and the value of it and the method of it in the personal aspect, in the personal space, then teaches us how to live with true equanimity. Because if we can acknowledge anything within us, I promise you this, if you can acknowledge anything that is within you, and you have enough experience to allow that to come up into consciousness, and you can get to the point where you acknowledge it in a neutral way, you won't have external problems. You may have conventional external problems. You may have a money challenge or a health problem, but it won't feel like a struggle. It'll feel like what's happening. And various shades of physical experience that come along with that. But it won't feel like there's some big problem to solve, or that you're a big problem to solve. Equanimity is comes with a knowing that we can completely trust experience, and a knowing that we want to trust experience fully. We all know we can at some level, of course, that we want to trust the flow of experience, the unfolding of this true mystery. What else are we here to do? That's available. And once you know it's available, then it's just a matter of seeing what's in the way, see what we're not acknowledging inwardly. I mean, what is love other than true acknowledgement? True acknowledgement means seeing what is as what is, which mechanistically does require deep realization. Ultimately, it requires non-dual realization to see, feel, taste everything as it actually is. But that's love. That's love, because there's no agenda anymore. There's no, oh, I want it to be a little more this way. Yeah, it's really cool this way, but I want it to be just a little more like this. That doesn't happen. It doesn't have to happen. It wouldn't even make sense. First of all, because it's impossible. Second of all, because it's so enjoyable to really live with equanimity. It's also somewhat childlike, has the childlike innocence to it, this kind of equanimity. If you can remember back, or just think of a child you've seen that's experiencing something for the first time, something new, something simple, nature, a flower, a birthday party, playing, swimming, the things that can be so enjoyable for a child, right? Just immersion, complete immersion. But it's the simplicity and innocence that allows that. The child doesn't have an agenda. They're just playing. It's just play. Life is play. And it can be play for any and all of us. And we practice that here, partially. Part of what we practice here is that, the spontaneity in play. We also practice, as I mentioned maybe in the guided meditation this morning, we also practice investigating the incredible bandwidth we have for experience. And that sounds great when I say it like that, but the first time you start to experience like existential terror or something, it doesn't seem so much fun at first, but over time you actually will incorporate that, or you'll stop resisting it, and it turns out to be not anything like you thought it was. So that's the other thing we do here, is we just explore the tremendous bandwidth for experience when we're not trying to encapsulate experience with an illusion of a me apart, when we're not trying to control experience with the illusion of the one that's apart from the world that can make it a little better for itself. When that illusion's not there, the bandwidth is tremendous. The flexibility is tremendous. It does require vulnerability, though. It requires touching into helplessness and the fear of helplessness that will come with that. All of these can be incorporated, so to speak. I'll use the word incorporated. All of these can be integrated, essentially. All these energies, all these emotions, the fear, the helplessness. But you know, when we don't filter out aspects of experience, then we have a very broad experience, very deep experience. And a very accommodating, flexible experience. I mean, everyone wants to live without second-guessing themselves, without resisting life, without feeling hesitation like a lot of the time, without struggling with our own thoughts. We all know that's possible, and that's what we really want. Spontaneity. They come together: spontaneity, innocence, mystery, and vulnerability, or maybe I could say willingness. Those are all components that really they're interwoven in the realization of equanimity. You could ask yourself, walking around, can I be completely open to this experience as it unfolds? Completely. Try it out. If you can do it for a minute, then maybe you can do it for an hour. If you can do it for an hour, maybe you can do it for a day. If you can do it for a day, maybe you can do it for the rest of this lifetime. Be completely open to whatever arises. Not afraid to respond to it in whatever way is necessary and obvious. And when we're open that way, and we've incorporated this vast bandwidth of experience and emotion, then we'll find what comes with that openness and that willingness to dance with life. What comes with it is a joy, really. The joy is not an emotional joy, by the way. I might call it like a rightness. It's really energetic. It's at the energetic level. It's very subtle, ineffable, but it's ever present. And that's the joy of living in truth, living in accord with truth. And again, we all know this is possible. We've all tasted it to some degree at some point. Why else would we be doing all this? What did I say the components were? Innocence, willingness, openness. There's also, this is important, willingness to let go, to not cling. In the exact moment I'm talking about, in this openness, moment to moment to moment, not to cling. You don't need to. Seems like you need to sometimes, but you don't. I think we learn a lot of that from people too, from family dynamics, parenting styles, whatever. But clinging doesn't ever work, even in the just practical terms around other individuals. You know, if you try to cling, generally people just want to move away from you. You know, it doesn't really work. But energetically and mechanistically, you can see like it doesn't make sense. It's, you know, clinging or desire and aversion or, you know, pushing away or disassociation. Those are just ways to try to mitigate experience. But what I'm talking about is not trying to mitigate experience anymore. Not trying to mitigate the effects of experience in the simplest way. And to go back to resistance, which is what I sort of started talking about, I think anyone can do this, what I just said. Anyone can take these factors into account and just move moment to moment through life, completely open to experience, without pushing or pulling, without judging, out of innocence, curiosity, directness. Anyone can do it. But it will reveal anything that's getting in the way. So if you do this and you feel like a freedom with it, and then later on you feel some intense resistance around it, that's not a bad thing. It's just like I wrote in the book, where when the other shoe drops, it's kind of like reality is saying, look, here's what's possible for you. Here's what's real for you right now. And then here's what's getting in the way of it. It's this resistance pattern. So if you feel resistance and contraction after doing this for a while, that's completely okay. The real trick here is to apply all of those factors, that willingness, that openness, directness, and innocence, to the resistance if you can. And it will be a physical thing. It will be a physical experience. But you have the capacity for it, for sure. Contraction and expansion fundamentally aren't different. They're different only through the interpretation or inflection of thought, but even non-conceptual thought. So if they'll feel rather visceral. But in the same way as you do walking through the world, you know, doing the things that we believe we prefer, frolicking through the meadows or whatever we like to do, the same approach works when all of a sudden there's what we call contraction or energetic resistance in the body. The same approach can occur. It's just sort of, instead of outwardly, it suddenly goes inwardly. It goes inward, penetrates anything that's in there. Yeah, sort of washes over anything. Same sort of curiosity, same innocence, same unguardedness. You will often notice at this point, we get a lot of like parental thoughts. Oh, don't waste your time with that. You know, you should be busy. Stay busy. Go do something. Don't just lay around. You know, be productive, right? But those are thoughts. If you're called to experience what's going on internally, just experience it, even if you have to set aside some time to do it. It's always valuable. And there's thoughts too that can say, oh my God, I'm going to spiral into depression like I had 15 years ago or something. Just a thought. You have the capacity to experience anything, whether it's inward, outward, contracted, expanded. And at some point, with the clarification of insight, it will be difficult to discern inward from outward anymore. You won't really have that boundary, that apparent boundary. Which can be strangely really challenging at times, in a very strange way, because you see that there's no choice. So how is there a challenge? But there's some part of us still that wants to pretend we can avoid when you can't anymore. And it can feel tremendously liberating to not have the boundary between inward and outward. And yet, we all have the capacity for that spontaneous, present exploration of whatever is arising. Whatever it is, whatever's happening, whether it's conventional, spiritual, insight-based thoughts, emotions, sensations, energetics. Who knows what it is? You may not even know. Confusion. It's all fine. It's just what's happening. And you can know it with deep, deep okayness and equanimity.